أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I begin by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for making us all Muslims. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us this life and death as Muslims. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to also to protect us from this coronavirus pandemic that we are going through. Ameen Ya Rabbil Alameen. My name is Afreen Syed, and I am one of the many volunteers here at East Plano Islamic Center, also known as EPIC. I serve on a very small capacity as the secretary of the Sisters Committee here at EPIC. I would like to welcome you all. On behalf of our Sisters Committee, I would like to welcome you all to a very special program, this beautiful program called The Stories of the REVERT'S. This program is being streamed live from EPIC YouTube channel. At this moment, I would like to take an opportunity to ask you all to subscribe to EPIC YouTube channel if you have not already done so. I would also like to ask you to please donate to EPIC during this coronavirus pandemic. You can do so by going through following the link that is in the description of this program. Or you can also go to the website, EPIC Masjid website, and donate from there, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan all. Sisters, subhanallah, we have always heard of so many stories. So many times we have heard of the stories of our Sahabi. Our Sahaba, Abu Bakr, Umar, Osman, Khalid, radiallahu anhum, how they reverted to Islam, how they came into the fold of Islam. We hear these so many times, but we want to hear it again. As our resident scholar, Sheikh Yasir Khadi, has mentioned before, no matter how many times we hear these stories of the revert brothers and sisters coming into Islam, it never gets old. There's always something new to learn from these stories. Having said that, I have my two sisters here with me who have reverted to Islam on different occasions at different times. Sister Amina Momin and Sister Martha. So I would like to welcome you both. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Amina. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Martha. I would like to welcome both of you here. And today, inshallah, we will hear their stories about how they reverted to Islam. To begin with, I want to start with Sister Amina. Sister Amina, can you share with us your story, how you got into Islam and how your journey to Islam, and what was your life like before Islam? And did you find Islam or did Islam find you?
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much, Sister Afreen. Thank you for having us here today, and thank you for letting us tell a little bit about our story. Subhanallah, I've been Muslim probably longer than a lot of Muslims have been alive today. I've been Muslim since 1986. I became Muslim on January 12, 1986 in the IANT, or the Richardson Masjid. It was brand new at that time. In those days, there were maybe 20 people or less who would go for Jummah. And Sundays were actually a bigger crowd than Fridays in those days. But mashallah, I was very fortunate that Islam came into my life, I would say. And to be honest, when I was younger, I did know a little bit about Islam. When I was in 8th grade, about 13 years old, our teacher, our world history teacher, had us study all the great religions that were considered monotheistic, which is Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. And she asked us, please study each of them and choose the one you like and why. So I chose Islam at that time, not thinking that, I'm ever going to be a Muslim, I would even ever meet a Muslim, I don't know. But I chose it because to me, at 13 years old, it made sense. Because all of us, whether we're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, or whatever, we are seeking to go to heaven. And I saw Islam as being a very good guidebook to get to heaven, as well as something that is for your daily life. So anyway, that was my story at 13 years old, and I got very insulted because the football boy who sat next to me, he chose, of course, Christianity, and he made an A, and in my well thought out, well planned, and heartfelt essay that I gave my teacher, I got a D. So anyway, this is the result of our country, I think. Yeah. So thank you.
So, you want to go any deeper into your story, like how?
Well, okay. So let me tell my story then, how I really became Muslim. I was a student at UTD, which is the university in Richardson. And I met a young man from Bangladesh, and we liked each other very much. He proposed marriage to me. I wanted to marry him. I was very much ready to marry him. But I told him that, you've met my family, because my family was here in Dallas. I said, can you please tell your family about our plans to get married? I wanted them to be aware of me. So in those days, it was quite difficult to make phone calls. So he wrote a letter, because this was the best way to communicate. He wrote a letter, and probably after some time, we got a reply back. So his brother-in-law, who was the senior person of the family, suggested that I become Muslim. First of all, they told him they didn't have any objection to him marrying whomever he pleased, but they said it would be a good idea if I became Muslim. And I was fine with that. And so he arranged at the Richardson Mosque for us to get married. The same day I married is the same day I took Shahada.
Subhanallah.
Or I became Muslim. Taking Shahada means bearing witness that you believe in Allah, or the one and only God, and that Muhammad is the messenger of God. So the time I did that, when I converted, I met some sisters, Egyptian sisters, who happened to be in the mosque that day. It was a Sunday, by the way. I think they had been having a halaqah, or study group. And so they introduced themselves to me, and they gave me a lot of literature, like a Quran, a copy of Quran in English, some other books by Maulana Maududi. And I took these things very seriously to heart, and I took them home and I read them. And I would tell my husband, who was a born Muslim, that look what it says in Quran, look what it, and he told me, he said, I know, everything in there is good. He said, in Bangladesh, we are taught how to read Quran in Arabic, but we are not taught the meanings.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in many ways, he was becoming like a convert to Islam.
Yeah.
We both were learning together.
MashaAllah.
And that's what I see of most of the immigrants to the United States, from whatever Muslim country they're from. They come here and they get their eyes opened about what is the real Islam, or what is the truth behind their religion. Whereas they were raised more or less as a cultural Muslim, just believing in it because that's what you did. Just like here in America, I was raised a Christian. I was baptized in the first Christian church. They call it the Disciples of Christ. And I didn't really know that much about basic Christianity. I knew whatever they taught us in church, but that was not really what Christianity is. And I always say, whenever I go speak to Christian people, I'm a better Christian now as a Muslim than I ever was as a Christian.
Subhanallah.
Because when I go back now and look at the Bible and I look at the teachings, I see I see the truth. I see that what it is that we're here for. We're here as a test to live to the best of our ability. And whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts anything to us, it's meant for us to examine ourselves and to try to improve ourselves. And I look at this pandemic that the whole world is being affected by, and I think there is a deep, deep lesson in it for all of us on so many levels.
I agree.
So many levels. The fact that we are being forced to kind of isolate ourselves, to stay inside of our homes, our whole family. It's not even just, I was a stay-at-home mom for years and years and years. But my children were in school, my husband was working, but now we're all together inside of the home, right? So I think there's wisdom in that, because it really is going to force us to try to improve our home life, improve our relationships. And I think also the fact that, it originated in China, which really is no big deal, but when it was there, we were over here thinking, oh, we're okay. It's in China, right? Who cares, right?
Yes.
But it came to us.
Mm-hmm.
And it will go everywhere, because that's the nature of the virus.
Right.
But at the same time, that's a deep lesson, because we have things happening in the world, wars, injustice, oppression, genocide, so many things going on. But we always look at it as that's their problem. But now we realize their problem can become our problem. So I hope that this opens up people's minds and they start to think that we need to be more aware of what's going on in the world around us. That was one thing that I really loved about being a Muslim, meeting people from around the world. As a Muslim, it doesn't matter where you're from, you are automatically have a bond. You automatically have something in common. Even if you cannot communicate with one another, you can pray together, because we pray all the same. If you go to China, where there are quite a few Muslims who are being subjugated to horrible, horrible circumstances in concentration camps, something like what Hitler did to Jews and others in World War II. If we were able to go there and be with them, we would feel fine, because we could get up and pray with them with no problem whatsoever.
Absolutely.
Of course, I don't want to be in a concentration camp, but it breaks my heart that they are being subjected to that. And I also feel like this is something to show this mentality that needs to be stopped. So people who have an opposite mentality, who really believe that we are all one humanity, they need to start stepping up and speaking out and trying to squash those who would have us divided, squash those who do not look at one another as brothers and sisters in humanity. It doesn't matter what religion you are. This transcends religion. So I'm hoping that, inshallah, through these kind of videos, through these kind of talks, that we all become very aware.
Inshallah.
And that we start to spread this message of love, kindness, and caring.
Jazakallah khair. Sister Martha, would you like to share your story with us? What brought you to Islam?
Sure. My name is Martha Munshi. My middle name is Marta Elena Rosas. Everybody knows me as Marta Elena Rosas. That's my father's name. I became a Muslim about 22 years ago, alhamdulillah. And like you said, did you search for Islam or Islam found me? And I think Islam found me in my case, because my story is different from Sister Amina. I was brought up as being a Christian Pentecostal as a child, until my mom passed away when I was 12 years old. And at that time I was in Mexico, and my brothers brought me here to the United States. And I didn't practice my mom's religion. I kind of just went away because I didn't have anybody to force me to practice any religion. My family were not practicing at all. So I went to school, college, and I didn't care much about the religion at all until I became a mother. And I started thinking of how I'm going to teach my kids about God.
The mic is not on.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
So
It's done.
I was thinking, I started thinking of how am I going to teach my kids about God? That question started concerning me, and because I knew that there was a God, and I knew that He was there somewhere, and whenever I needed Him, I needed help, I remember I used to cry to God to please help me, whatever I was in whatever situation I was. So I started taking my kids to back to the Christian church, Pentecostal, and when I went there, I felt like I didn't connect. I felt empty. So I left, I stopped going there, and then I went back, and then I started searching for religion, which I went to Catholic church, in which I have no clue about anything, what is Catholics worship, or nothing. So I started going to their church, and because I wanted to have that feeling, that connection with God. And but all I could hear is the priest just talking, giving the sermon. And I noticed that in the church, whenever somebody with the high heels used to walk across the door, everybody's turned around to see who was that person. And I was like, no, it's not right. Something's wrong. Yeah. And so finally, I quit. I said, that's it. I'm not going to go to any church at all. And but I remember one night, I was in desperation, and at that time I was going through difficulties in my life, and I started crying, and I cried to God. I said, God, I know you exist. Please guide me. Please guide me. Help me to guide my kids. So I think about after 2 years, when I did that prayer, I had a neighbor moved into my apartment complex, and she was my neighbor for 6 months. And I noticed that I always wanted to ask her why that she was covering. So at that time she used to cover from head to toe. I could not even see her eyes. I didn't know who they were. First I thought they were Hindus. They were from a sunset or something, So I was afraid of them. And until the last day when she was moving out, I came across when she was cleaning, when she went back to her apartment to clean her house, to her apartment, I felt like to ask her at least her name. And so I asked, what I came to my mouth, I said, did you move out? And she said, yeah, I'm here just to clean my apartment so I can get my deposit back. And I said, oh, don't worry about that. You will never get your money back. So at that point, at that moment, and she gives me chills every time I think about it, and every time I remember this, that's when I asked her, would you like to have dinner with me tonight? And she said, give me your phone number, I'll let you know. So she called me. I was hoping that she would call me, but at that point, what I was trying to say, that at that moment, when she was, basically going away, at that moment I felt like somebody very close to me was moving away. Although I never spoke to this sister, never in my life, never said a word to her, I didn't even know her name. At that moment, I felt like somebody so close to me was going away, and I couldn't help it, I couldn't stop it. So that's when I asked her, sister, would you like to have dinner with me tonight, out of the blue? I didn't even call her sister, I just say, hey, would you like to have dinner with me tonight? And so she called me, and she came to my apartment with her husband, and then that's when I started asking her an ocean of questions. Why do you cover? And what is your religion? And so on and so forth. And her name is Susan Edinburgh. and her husband is Brother Khalid. I call him Brother Khalid. And she is the one who taught me about Islam. She's the one who told me the 5 pillars of Islam. She's the one who took her time and give me the time to learn about this beautiful religion. And Alhamdulillah, it took me time. It was not easy. And the reason it was not easy because sometimes you doubt, sometimes you think, am I doing the right thing? Am I betraying my mom's religion? And especially when your family are not Muslims and they see that you're making a change, you know, they're always throwing that on your face. Hey, you're betraying my mom's religion. What are you doing? You're wrong. Go back to Jesus. Jesus will save you, nobody else. You know, you have the pressure on your family too. So Susan was very patient with me, and she keeps encouraging me, you know, to stay in Islam, to learn more about it. And I was going back and forth, and until one day I think she had it with me, and she said, Martha, one thing I'm going to tell you is when you already know about God, about Allah, you know the true religion, you know about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know about the Quran, you know everything about it. If you go away from Islam, which is, you know, you can do that. Nobody is making you to be a Muslim. Allah will turn your back and His back on you, and that really hit me. And I didn't want Allah to turn His back on me because I knew better. Because I was being rebellious, you know, because it takes time when you're not ready. Because I was not searching for a religion at the time. So ever since then, I started practicing, and she brought me to INT Mosque, and I met Sister Mina there. So she has been my companion for all this year, and she is the one who really I have learned so much. Alhamdulillah, she's really my role model.
MashaAllah, this is amazing. MashaAllah. Such an inspiring story, Sister Martha. I'm really sorry. We had a small technical issue, and I think in the beginning when you were stating your story, the volume was not so well. So inshallah, if you can please just summarize a little of your story again.
Okay,
Thank you
sure.
so much.
Okay, so if I remember what I said, but basically I became a Muslim January 12th, 1986 at the REVERT'S Masjid here in Texas. I'm a native Texan, 4th generation. I was born in the panhandle of Texas, but we moved to Dallas when I was in 1st grade, when I was 7. So I grew up here in Dallas. I became Muslim because I met a young man. I was a student at UT Dallas, and I met a young man there from Bangladesh. So he proposed marriage to me, and I really wanted to marry him. But at the same time, I told him, you know, you've met my family, and he had met my parents. And so I'm like, what about your family? I mean, I'd really like it if your family knew about me and knew about our plans. So in 1986, subhanAllah, that was a long time ago, the best way to communicate with people overseas was by writing letters. So he wrote a letter to his family back in Bangladesh, and his oldest brother-in-law, who was like the senior most person of the family, wrote back to him, and basically they told him, you know, whatever you decide to do, that's fine with us. But he did suggest that I convert, that I become a Muslim. And I didn't really have any objection to it at that time. I mean, and because like I was never a very religious Christian, I'm not brought, I was baptized in the First Christian Church, which is called the Disciples of Christ. And I did attend church occasionally, but we were never very strong, committed Christians in my family. And so when he suggested that to me, I was like, sure, why not? And he arranged everything for us to get married at the REVERT'S Masjid, which was brand new at that time. And yeah, that's one thing in those days. On Friday, there would be maybe 20 people for Jummah, maybe. Sundays were a bigger day than Fridays. People came to the mosque on Sundays because Sunday is the day off. And in fact, we got married on a Sunday because that was the most convenient time for everyone to gather. And my parents attended the marriage. It was kind of funny because my husband had arranged all of it, but when he came to the mosque, the people that he had arranged the appointment with weren't there. Which I know all of us as Muslims will understand what I'm talking about because it's pretty normal, okay? But at that time, you know, I wasn't a Muslim and my parents were with me. And all I know is we drove up in the parking lot and parked, and I saw my husband or fiance at that time standing outside, and like I could tell something wasn't right. So I went up to him and he's like, they're telling me we can't do it today. I'm like, no, my dad is here, we have to. And so then that's the funny thing, when we go back inside, when the brothers saw that, oh, my dad is there with his suit on, and my mother was there with her nice dress on, and I'm also dressed nicely, then they were like, oh, okay. So
it's like, real.
And subhanAllah, so first of all, they did what's called the nikah, which is the marriage ceremony, which basically is like a contract where they offer to the woman, are you willing, this man is proposing marriage to you, are you willing to accept his proposal? It's like a negotiation, okay? And so some sisters took me in a room and told me that you have to accept whatever he's proposing to you, and there has to be some monetary value. And he had bought me a ring, subhanAllah. So I was like, oh, he's given me this ring. And they said, well, if you're happy with that, that's good enough. But on the paper, it had like a blank with a dollar sign. So I said, oh, just put $100 there, it's fine, you know. And anyway, so we went back into the room, and so yeah. So basically, once a woman accepts whatever the man is offering as the meher or the dowry, then the marriage is complete, and everybody makes dua, and you leave, basically. So that was about it. Of course, it's very different from a Christian marriage in the church, because they have a whole ceremony where the bride walks down the aisle and the minister gives a kind of talk. And but I mean, at the root of it, it's pretty much the same thing, you know, because even the minister will ask, do you take this man as your lawfully wedded husband, and vice versa. So I mean, it's sort of very much the same. The other thing that the brothers asked was, is the sister going to convert to Islam? Like, is she going to make shahada? Shahada is what we call the declaration of faith in
Exactly,
Islam.
yes.
And this is what makes somebody a Muslim. Like, and all it is to say, I bear witness, there's nothing worthy of worship except the one true God, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger and his servant. Okay? And so, you know, it was funny because like we had finished with the nikah, and then the brother's like, oh, is she going to become a Muslim today? Like, is she going to take shahada? And then, you know, I was like, yeah, why not? You know, so we killed two birds with one stone. But subhanAllah, so because I did accept Islam that day, they gave me a copy of the Quran. They gave me books, very good books written by Maulana Maududi. And yeah, so I took those home, and I took it serious. Like, when I became a Muslim, I knew a little bit about Islam. I knew how we were supposed to do, but I really took it to heart that I want to learn this for real. And I can remember reading things and then telling my husband, hey, look, this is what it says in the Quran. And he's like, really? Because, you know, he told me, he said, you know, we're taught how to read the Quran in Arabic, but in Bangladesh, people don't speak Arabic, they speak Bengali. So he said, we're never taught the meaning. We're just taught how to read it. We're taught how to pray, but we don't really know what we're saying when we pray. So in many ways, he was as much a convert to Islam as I was. We learned together, we grew together, and it really, I mean, Islam is just, it helps your life to be very solid, so that the trials and tribulations that come along as you live your life, you will be able to handle it better, easier. And I think all religions have that value. I'm not trying to put it down, but for me, Islam, if I had not been a Muslim from a young age, I think my life would have been very different. And I think I would have really had extremely hard times.
MashaAllah. Thank you so much, Jazakallah, Sister Amina. Like, hearing both of your stories, like, you know, I can see how Islam, actually, you didn't find Islam, Islam found you. Absolutely. The way Islam came to you both, and it was right there. And of course, I can also see that what made you accept Islam was the simplicity of Islam, that is. And also, what really caught my attention when you both were saying your stories were how, mashallah, the masajids played the role in your lives, how the masajids brought you and the community, the sisters in the community, how they supported you and helped you learn Islam, become the Muslim that you are today, mashallah. So this just shows the importance of our masajids, and mashallah, here our masjid, East Plano Islamic Center, we strive to be the home of Ansar. We try to, here, the management here, we are always working to bring our new revert sisters and try to serve the community and be inclusive of everyone possible, inshallah. So may Allah give us success and may Allah unite us. Ameen. I have this question for you both, but one of you can answer. Anyone can answer. So I know you got married on the day you took the Shahada and got married. Were you already married, or were you? Did you have to work on your husband, or what was your story? Like you converted at a young age, right? Like so.
Yes.
You married later.
Yes, I was 28 years old.
Was it hard to find a spouse?
Well, this is my the continuation of my story was that at that time I was a divorced mother, and my kids were very small.
Okay.
And my youngest one, which was like 11 months old. Susan, who she is my best friend, and two is like they're my sisters really. Susan and her husband became my guardian, and also Susan. And at that time, I was struggling raising my kids, and they took the charge of helping me find a husband. And believe me, at that time I got to meet so many brothers, so many proposals came to me. But Susan, she used to give the dawah at INT, and she knew my husband now, then how good he was in his deen and his religion, and so they proposed. They told me about him, and I said sure, I would like to meet him, and for him was not as easy, because at that time, this is a man who never had been married before. He has no idea about children. But he was brought up with a very strong family values, and also with the understanding of the teaching of Islam, the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, the way that he conducted his life. And so Susan, Munshi, Brother Munshi, everyone knows him by Brother Munshi. We met at Sister Susan's house, and when I met him, I wasn't so sure, because to me it seems like he didn't know anything about children. He was never married before, and I was hesitating, is it going to work or not? I didn't want to fail, So, but alhamdulillah, after some times we agreed to get married, and he is a wonderful father. He became
MashaAllah.
a wonderful father, and my kids love him so much like a father. Like he never made any distinction between my kids, and our two biological kids, or three of them. I have six children. So yeah, alhamdulillah, never I'm older than him. So alhamdulillah, everything has worked out, and he's mashallah, very good practicing Muslim, and that's what I wanted.
Alhamdulillah. So my next question to you both, and Sister Amina, you can answer first, inshallah. So once you became a Muslim, you were already Muslim, you accepted Islam. Did you ever think of leaving it? Did you ever think that, oh, maybe this is not the right choice? And what triggered it? Maybe something that came to you.
Okay, subhanallah, that's a very good question. And mashallah, as human beings, we live our lives and things go up and down, for sure. And honestly, I went to live overseas for 5 years in Bangladesh, and it had good and bad. It was eye-opening in many ways. But at the same time, I do get, as a convert, maybe because the converts or reverts are a little bit more idealistic in their thinking, and we see Islam as just this wonderful, and it is a wonderful way of thinking, believing, practicing, everything. It helps us in our life so much. And because most of us are from a background dealing with the church, and unfortunately in the church there's a lot of hypocrisy, blah, blah, blah. So that's why we get a little bit like Sister Martha had described when she went to the different churches. And honestly, Islam has grown in this country so much. When I was a new Muslim 30 whatever years ago, the community was very small. So whenever it's a small group, usually there's more connections, there's more support, there's more good things that go on. But as our masjids, as our masajids and our everything grew, we've become that institution. And we have a lot of the same flaws that I knew as a Christian in a church. Does that make sense? So definitely I've had, I won't call them exactly doubts, but I get frustrated. I get frustrated with the behavior of our Muslims. I get frustrated with, and the thing that has kept me Muslim is not the Muslims. The thing that has kept me Muslim is the Quran. Because when you go back and you read the Quran, you read what God Almighty, what Allah has sent down to you, to every one of us, He has sent it to our hearts, to help us to know ourselves better, to help us to know our world better. When I read that, I cannot deny it. I cannot give it up. I cannot let it go. So that's what has kept me Muslim, is the Quran, more than anything else.
Subhanallah. Sister Martha, what is your, did you ever think about leaving Islam?
There were times, especially when my husband and I got married, and he got a big backlash from his community because, it was not a good thing. It was not a, something normal that a Bangladeshi man would marry as, somebody other than
Right.
Bangladesh,
Out of their culture.
Out of their culture, and especially me having already children with me. So, I felt bad for him, and there was a time when I asked him, well, let's divorce. You can go marry to Bangladeshi lady, But he always refused. He said, I'm doing what the Prophet Muhammad did when he married Khadija. And so, and that helped me a lot. I think being married to a Muslim man who's a practicing Muslim, it did really kept me from going out of the religion because from the community, I didn't have no support. I only got the support from the REVERT community, like Sister Amina and other sisters, But other than that, I think everybody, I was the outsider, for all the rest of the community.
Yeah, actually that was the next question I was coming to. Like, you know, it cannot be always all rosy and everything good. Of course, there have to be some bad experiences. Everybody's human around here. So that was my next question, that did you feel that way when you come to the masajids or when you meet the other Muslims, supposedly born Muslim sisters? How did you feel? That was, yeah, it's...
I mean, I'll just give you an example that when my husband wrote his family saying that he wanted to marry me, and, you know, and then they wrote back saying that, you know, suggesting I become Muslim. Because actually a Muslim man can marry a Christian woman. It's okay. But I found out after our marriage, after when we were visiting his home, that some of his family friends, people he had known from a young age, they even said that I cannot be a true Muslim. Like this was their opinion, you know. Even though in Islam, it's absolutely clear that whoever becomes Muslim, whoever says Shahada, whoever accepts this religion is a Muslim. That's why sometimes we are condemned in the media that we don't disown some of the crazies that are out there who are in the name of Islam doing crazy things. Because Islamically, according to our book, we have to accept whoever says that they're Muslim. As a Muslim, we can say that their behavior is not following Islam. We can say that, but we really can't deny that they have nothing to do with Islam. But their behavior is not following what we know of Islam, what you can find yourself. Anybody can find in the Quran the truth, if they're inclined to go and find it.
Absolutely.
So so that was his opinion, that I couldn't be a quote unquote true Muslim, and I believe his motivation in saying that was he had a daughter who was not married. So I think he was thinking he's losing a potential spouse for his daughter when he decided to marry me. So you see, a lot of times our motivations for our opinions have to do with something like that, like something that is affecting us directly, personally. And that's why I love Islam, because it's very clear. Islam is not personal. It's personal in the way that we embrace it and we feel about it, but the way we practice it, the way we believe in it, it's not personal. Like, we are not trying to say to some other people that you guys are wrong and we are right. That's not for us to say. Mm-hmm. We can't even say that.
Right.
Because that is for what? That is for our Creator, our God, Allah, to decide, not us. We have to just be worried about our inside. And again, I think I related to coronavirus, that now we're being isolated. I think we're being pushed into really reflecting on our inside. Because we're all so busy all the time with our work, with our family, with school, with whatever it is, that we don't have time to reflect on our inside. So subhanAllah, now we're being forced by the government, by this virus, which again, it came from Allah only. You can't look at it as like our president called it a foreign virus. There is no foreign virus. A virus is a virus, right? And
True.
The same thing we can think about ourselves as human beings, because the virus is a creation of Allah. We're also a creation of Allah. We shouldn't think about others as foreigners. We're all men and women. We're all brothers and sisters. So when we see another group of people suffering, we shouldn't distance ourselves and say, well, that's typical for them, or they deserve that, or that's the right thing for them, or something. Like that won't happen to us because, we're superior to them. What? What are you talking about? We are all in this planet together, and we need to start facing that and thinking about it and realizing it. That what affects another people will affect us eventually. So I hope that's
true.
I'm off of my soapbox, I promise.
No. You're good, mashallah. So I know you already had children
Yes.
before you got married,
Yes.
and you had children later. So what are the challenges that you guys faced? Because it's like, I know Sister Amina said she became a Muslim, and it was almost like her husband also reverted with her, and they both learned Islam together and grew together, mashallah. So for you, you were a new Muslim and you had children before you became a Muslim. So did you face challenges raising them as Muslims? Like, how was that like?
Yes. Oh, that's a very good question. Yes.
She hit the jackpot.
Right. Yes, especially when you have your family that are not Muslims and they're trying to save you, you know. And,
Yeah.
So
A lot of tugging.
two of my older children, they were, I believe Michelle was 7 and Jonathan was 5 at the time. I mean, they started practice Islam with me because that was the teaching that I started showing them, giving them, taking them to the Quran Sunday schools, the INT, and trying to get them involved in the community with other children, and they learned how to read Quran. And alhamdulillah, you know, they for them Islam is the religion. However, as they started growing up and becoming teenagers, sometimes they actually became very rebellious. And who sheltered them was my sister, which is just a very strong believer in Jesus Christ. That, you know, if you don't know, accept Him as your Savior, you're gonna go straight to hell. Blah blah blah. You know, and so she grabbed that opportunity when I was having trouble with my teenagers to start preaching them to about Christianity. And behind my back, she used to pick them up and take them to church.
Wow.
And so I started, and then when I found that out, I was not angry at them. I was just telling, that's good, you're you know, learning other religions. It's good that I'm never going to prohibit you to go if you think that is the right thing to do. Just, you know, you can go into it. That's okay. I mean, you need to find yourself in this day. However, since Islam, it was already in their heart. For them, they used to come and tell me, "Mommy, I can see why we don't do certain things, why we worship God in the way we do, why we pray the way we do." They said, we didn't felt anything. We used to just see how they were practicing the religion, and we didn't feel that connection at all, you know. And so I think that makes them stronger in Islam. I think that they firm the faith in Islam. So alhamdulillah, right now they're practicing Muslim, and you know, they already got married. 3 of them got married. I'm a grandmother of 1 year old, so her name is Layla. And so alhamdulillah, it was a challenge. It was a big challenge, yes.
What about you, Sister Martha?
You know, I was so fortunate because my family was very accepting of me. And because I think, you know, it has something to do with the American psyche, not all Americans, but a lot. They're very open to other people's ideas and opinions, and they accept it. And I think that's a wonderful quality that we have in the United States. And I hope that it grows and grows rather than going the other way, you know. But my family was always supportive of me and just took me as I was. And now I know my father told me that from his church group, no one else in my family converted to Islam as yet. But my father told me that in his church group, some people commented to him that, well, doesn't it just break your heart and hurt you that you just see your daughter, you know, wearing that thing and doing these things? And he said, not really, because she could be strung out on drugs and in jail, because that is also a big thing in our country too, unfortunately, you know, for young people. So I appreciated my parents for their wisdom, for their kindness. And like I said, they supported me no matter what. So I was blessed, and I feel like I've always been blessed. And it was Allah who is blessing me continually, all the time. And to understand Islam and to accept it and follow it, I mean, I'm not that good of a Muslim, but in my heart, I accept it completely. I might be weak in practicing, but in my heart, it's there, strong. I can't ever think about turning away from it.
Right.
But yeah, maybe I'll avoid the mosques. I'm not kidding, because the environment and the atmosphere in the masjid is not that great because of grouping, because of people's mentality. And again, that's the mentality that I'm hoping that this coronavirus is going to help us to change.
There is definitely a blessing in everything that comes from Allah. InshaAllah, there will be khair in what we are going through today. It's as if you guys are reading my mind. You know, I was going to ask you, that was my next question to you.
Brilliant
about
minds alike.
That was my next question, that how did your families react and what role are they playing in your children's lives? And you both answered that without me asking. Subhanallah. So my next question is, mashallah, what really amazed me was the way Sister Martha told me about her kids. They visited the church, they went there, they were being taught both religions at home by her husband, and then at the church, the way they were going, and they still came back and they saw the beauty of Islam. Mm-hmm. That is really something that...
You know, in my long experience dealing with different people, Muslims in particular, I mean, I've met born Muslims whose mother or father was a revert or convert. And I find that these people who are now adults, that their point of view, their perspective, their thinking is very different from like the average Muslim. Like they really understand the religion to a degree that the average Muslim doesn't. Just like I was saying earlier about the immigrants to this country learning the religion here. Even though they were born Muslim, they learned how to read Quran in Arabic, they learned how to pray, they learned all the rituals that they needed to, but they did not learn the spirit. They did not learn the love for it. And that's not a blanket. I mean, some people in Muslim countries are wonderful, beautiful Muslims, beautiful spirits. I'm saying in general. Because unfortunately, you know, what do you call it, capitalism, and by the way, I'm not against it. I'm just saying, you know, what do you call it, the market economy and, you know, focusing on education and getting a good job and earning enough money has taken over most of the world. And rightly so. I mean, we all have to have money. We all have to. But Allah says in the Quran that do not worry about it. You will be provided for. You will be taken care of. So when you have that understanding, then you understand that you will be fine. Everything will be fine. And again, I think this virus is going to be a proof of that. Does it mean that we won't have to give up some things that we enjoy, or we won't have to make sacrifices? No. Sacrifices are something that we are born to do. I mean, this is the test on us. But the thing is, funny thing is, once you do make a sacrifice and once you're through that, you start to realize you didn't need that anyway, or that wasn't that important anyway, after time passes. So I hope that everyone out there, my message is of hope, and it's of love, and I believe that each and every one of us can make a difference.
Absolutely.
In this world.
Absolutely, I agree. Since we are online, and if you guys, any sisters have any questions for our beautiful Revert sisters, please do ask us questions. You can post your questions on our YouTube channel, EPIC YouTube channel, and let us know if you have any questions for our sisters. And I'm really thankful to both of you for taking time out and coming here and being with us. Jazakumullah khairan. And let me see if we have any questions.
Can I just speak about what you had said earlier about donating to the nonprofits? Mm-hmm. And I totally support that. Please do donate to EPIC Masjid. They have they provided us with this wonderful format, and everything in life takes money, And the reality is, I believe that we are given money as we are a guardian of it. So how we spend it and how we do things is important. And the Prophet ﷺ always taught us that whenever we do have a catastrophe happen, that we should give in charity. We should give donations. So that's something to remember. And I just want to put a plug for other nonprofit Muslim organizations, one in particular that I work for, that's called Muslim Legal Fund of America. And I'm the one that handles the the money that comes in, in accounting. So if you're listening and you made a pledge to MLFA, I'm asking you, as Amina Momin, the person who will deal with your donation, please fulfill your pledge to Muslim Legal Fund of America and to all of our nonprofits, whoever they are.
Jazakallah, Sister Amina. Yeah, so you can, as I said earlier, you can always go on, follow the link that is in the description of this program and donate there for EPIC Masjid, inshallah. So we can keep bringing more programs for you and inviting more beautiful sisters and have all the sisters programs and everything, inshallah. So are there any questions, live questions for us? No. I think that way we can wrap it up. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for coming. Inshallah. I'll see you again. Assalamu alaikum.
Sister Afreen. Assalamu alaikum.